Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying in his previous life, he wakes up inside of Harry Potter, inside of Hogwarts, and he is a serpent. What is he gonna do inside of Hogwarts?
Hogwarts, starting as a serpent demon. Wit, who transmigrated with the game Pig Academy, animal version of Hogwarts, that he developed in his previous life, initially only wanted to survive. But as his power grew, and with the arrival of the serpent demon, Albus the Phoenix, Rowena Ravenclaw the Eagle, Grindelwald the Kirin, his thoughts gradually began to change. Wit realized he could change the world. Wizards rule the world. For the greater good. Pureblood supremacy. Make wizards great again. No, none of that. What I want to say is, Wit stood at the election conference of the International Federation of Wizards and delivered a deafening roar. We stand here, embracing our shared future. Chapter 1, Pig Academy. Summer of 1991. The newly born snake demon was leisurely basking in the sun in the grass. As a cold-blooded creature, basking in the sun, especially after spending the night, brought him a strong sense of comfort. The snake demon lay there lazily, not wanting to move at all. Just then, a person suddenly walked over from the roadside. He had a gloomy face, wore a black cloak, and walked with a brisk pace. He didn't even look where he was going, and stepped on the snake's tail. Hi, Tilda. Upon being attacked, the serpent demon's emerald green eyes widened suddenly, and it turned its head to bite. Before he could bite the man, he discovered his ultimate move, pulled out a small wooden stick and casually swung it, and the snake demon felt a powerful force strike his body. It flew high and far away, then plunged headfirst into a pile of cow dung. Snape casually dealt with the small snake that was about to ambush him and continued walking forward. It was perfectly normal to find snakes in the grass. The most important thing now was to finish recruiting this year's freshmen as soon as possible. He didn't like staying in Muggle territory. Every year when recruiting new students, those Muggle parents liked to scrutinize him with strange and impolite looks, and Snape really disliked the job of recruiting. Hopefully, this family will be more polite and not as rude, ignorant, and disrespectful as the last one. Reaching the door, Snape gently knocked. No one responded. Not home. Snape knocked on the door a few more times, and after confirming that no one answered, he took out his wand and prepared to apparate away. Hiss, Tilda, hiss. It's him. Along with the sound of a snake flicking its tongue, a violent stomping sound came from behind Snape. Turning around, he saw a huge yak galloping towards him. Sharp horns, massive body, and maximum speed and power. When such a colossal creature charges towards you, most people would be terrified and start looking for cover. But Snape was no ordinary man. He prefers to solve problems with magic rather than avoidance. He collapsed to the ground, unconscious. A powerful stun spell that can knock down even an elephant and put it into a coma. Just a cow. Snape calmly prepared to put away his wand. His cool demeanor lasted only a second. Before Snape could even put his wand away, the scene before him made him draw it back with even greater speed. The spell that caused the stun was deflected the moment it struck the yak. It bounced off. Damn it, it's a magical creature. Moreover, it was a powerful magical creature. Snape had no time to think about why such a powerful magical creature would appear in the home of a freshman. During that brief lull, the yak had already charged right up to him. At that distance, there was simply no time to use magic. Snape could only roll awkwardly to the ground, dodging the attack while precisely swinging his wand to counterattack. What he didn't expect was the yak, in the instant it missed its target, turned sideways, swung its tail, stood on its hind legs, and delivered a powerful back kick. Hit the target. Snape was kicked away and landed in the thick grass. Before he could even stand up, Snape heard the sound of bull hooves thundering across the ground again. Hagrid, stop. Apparition. Two voices rang out almost simultaneously, one after the other. The battle had just made Snape realize that he couldn't easily defeat this magical creature that looked like a bull in a short time. Snape didn't want to waste any more time arguing with a beast, so he decided to leave and let the Ministry of Magic handle the matter. The moment apparition took effect, Snape looked up and saw his target, heard the shout, and the stopped giant beast. This cow is domesticated. Its owner is one of the new students he plans to recruit this time. Snape felt he needed to have a serious talk with McGonagall. How did you do your research? This is a Muggle freshman. What Muggle freshman would keep such a dangerous magical creature as a pet? Judging from its behavior just now, this bull must be at least a powerful magical creature of level 4 or 4. It's a ghost story. Outside the gates of Hogwarts, Snape limped into the school. The earlier incident had caused him considerable injury. This injury cannot be healed by the simple healing magic he possesses. He needs to go to the school hospital. Professor Snape, what happened? When Dumbledore heard from the school's portrait that Snape was injured, he rushed over to inquire about his condition. After all, given Snape's strength, anyone who could injure him must be extraordinary. Not to mention at this crucial juncture, when Harry is about to enroll in school. Snape was too ashamed to answer Dumbledore's question. He can't exactly say I got kicked by a cow, can he? This year's freshman, Snape said coldly, is a freshman whom McGonagall considers a Muggle, and whose family keeps a dangerous and powerful unknown magical creature. A cow covered in long hair. As a potions master, Snape had a good understanding of various magical creatures, which he often used when brewing potions. But Snape was certain that, before today, there was absolutely no record of that magical creature anywhere or in any book. Otherwise, how could he have underestimated his opponent? As a result, they lost the initiative and were caught off guard by the opponent. An unknown magical creature. Dumbledore lowered his head, inquired again about what had happened, and then decided to go and see for himself. Since becoming headmaster, Dumbledore hasn't recruited any new students for a long time. Even with Harry, he only sent Hagrid instead of going himself. To be honest, explaining magic to Muggles who don't know magic is a really troublesome thing. Before becoming the principal, he had to recruit new students every year. After becoming the principal, he still has to recruit new students every year. Then wouldn't he have been the principal for nothing? However, this time, the situation is different from before. This freshman has raised a high-risk magical creature that can deflect Snape's magic. To put it bluntly, this is a serious violation of the Ministry of Magic's regulations governing magical creatures. It is a grave crime that would lead to imprisonment in Azkaban. This is a situation that most professors can't handle. He has to go there in person. Let's rewind time. Whit's expression was one of utter despair as he witnessed the injured Snape escape using apparition. He beat up the professor before even enrolling in school, and he was the most vengeful Snape. How am I supposed to live from now on? What's going on? Whit stared at the yak Hagrid with a questioning look, believing that Hagrid wouldn't act without reason. Hagrid honestly replied, "It was the Serpent demon. He asked me to avenge him." The yak hage twitched its body, and a small, emerald-green snake slithered out from its neck. "Master, this is not my fault." The snake demon feigned grievance and whispered, "That guy stepped on my tail, and instead of apologizing, he attacked me with a small stick and stuck me into a dung heap. I'm just fighting back." Wit. He rubbed his temples in frustration, beginning to wonder whether drawing the snake demon was lucky or unlucky. Page 2. As a time traveler, Victor has a cheat code, which comes from a single-player game that was not yet completed in his previous life. Pangju Academy, an animal version of Hogwarts. Chapter 2, Dumbledore and the Ignored Serpent Demon. Hagrid the Yak is an initial character given as a gift upon activating the game. Serpent Demon is an orange card that Wit obtained by luck from a treasure chest after receiving his Hogwarts acceptance letter, completing a gold achievement and striking it lucky. The game's achievements are divided into gold, purple, and blue. The gold achievement is unique and can only be completed once. The treasure chest will always contain a character card. Purple achievements are limited-time achievements. For example, getting first place in your year in the Hogwarts year-end exams is a purple achievement, and you can claim this achievement a maximum of 7 times. There is a 1 in 10 chance that a purple treasure chest will contain a character card. There are no restrictions on blue achievements. You can achieve them as long as you're willing to grind. There is a 1% chance that a blue treasure chest will contain a character card. Because it's a single-player game, there's no guaranteed minimum reward. Furthermore, many achievements in the game are related to leveling up by defeating monsters, and you must kill magical creatures. This directly resulted in Wit spending over 10 years traveling through time without accomplishing a single achievement. I've never even gotten the lowest level blue treasure chest. Even if he had the chance to get it, Wit couldn't do it. Monsters in the game can respawn infinitely, but that doesn't work in the real world. How many people are there in the British wizarding world? Even if he slaughtered everyone in the entire wizarding world, he wouldn't achieve much. Therefore, many achievements in games are actually impossible to obtain in real life. However, it's not all bad. These characters who come to life in reality can not only level up by fighting monsters, but also slowly improve themselves through learning and natural growth. It's not like you'll be stuck at level 1 your whole life. That's why the Yak Haig's combat power was so much stronger than that of the snake demon. After all, the serpent demon was only born, while the Yak Haig was already 10 years old. But this is only in terms of pure strength. In terms of mentality, Hagrid the Yak is far less cunning than the serpent demon. The serpent demon's design is exactly the same as Voldemort's. Aside from his master, he treated everyone else with indifference and arrogance, including the Yak Haig. It was almost certain that the serpent demon had embellished the story when he was looking for Hagrid the Yak. He deliberately provoked the Yak Haig to use excessive force. He, on the other hand, can remain uninvolved. Although verbal education is unlikely to work on the serpent demon and cannot change his innate personality, Wit still felt it was necessary to warn him. "Is that so?" Wit looked at the serpent demon scrutinizingly and said in a low voice, "Should I ask Hagrid?" "I'm sorry." The emerald green snake lowered its head in shame, like a child obediently admitting its mistake. "I hope there won't be a next time," Wit said seriously. "Also, don't put on airs in front of me. You should know that I know your personality very well." Upon hearing this, the serpent demon raised its head, its humble and obedient expression instantly turning cold and calm. "I will be careful, Master." There was no intention to change anything in his words. His main concern was preventing Wit from finding out. Wit knew this, of course. He didn't expect the serpent demon to change. He just wanted the other party to remember not to lie to him or try to deceive him. "Let's leave it at that," Wit said, changing the subject. "You all need to keep your mouths shut in a bit, so my grandfather doesn't find out that you can talk." Wit was an abandoned orphan his whole life, but he was lucky enough not to freeze to death or be sent to an orphanage. Instead, it was found and adopted by the kind-hearted Mr. York Booze. I relived a happy childhood. There's also a large farm to inherit in the future. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that life is complete. Before receiving the letter from Hogwarts, Wit had even planned to live a carefree life. Hag the Yak is exceptionally good at taking care of animals and can even understand cow language, which helps the farm save a lot of work. Grandpa York cherishes this cow even more than he does. However, everything changed after the owl arrived, and the game notified Wit that he had completed a gold achievement. He had worked very hard to find evidence of the existence of magic, but after 10 years he found nothing. Just as he was exhausted and ready to give up, an owl carrying an envelope knocked on his window. These past few days, Wit had been eagerly anticipating the arrival of the Hogwarts professor, but in the short time he went to feed the cows, the Hogwarts professor, whom he had been waiting for, was kicked away by the cows he was raising. Wit's feelings at this moment were too complicated to describe. He climbed onto the back of the yak cage and gently patted its neck. "Run, Hagrid." When he was in a bad mood, Wit especially liked to ride Hagrid around the farm, letting the free wind carry away his troubles. After running 3 laps around the farm, the yak cage stopped near the water tap outside the farm and skillfully turned on the switch to drink water. Wit lay on the bull's back for a nap, while the emerald-green body of the serpent demon coiled around his chest, flicking its tongue to observe its surroundings. "Master, someone's here." It's a tall, imposing old man with a white beard who looks intimidating. White beard, tall stature. Wit sat up abruptly. To avoid being thrown off, the serpent demon on his chest quickly wrapped its tail around Wit's neck, circled him, and pressed its head against his right shoulder, hissing and flicking its tongue. This is the scene that Dumbledore saw when he arrived. A boy with delicate features, dressed in a grey-yellow work uniform, was riding on a giant beast that was half the size of a normal yak, with a small, emerald-green snake wrapped around its neck. The snake's eyes were watching him warily, hissing and flicking its tongue. "Hello." Dumbledore introduced himself gently. "Albus Dumbledore, from Hogwarts." "Dumbledore?" Wit asked quickly. The headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry mentioned in the acceptance letter. "So that person was a wizard from Hogwarts." "Sir, I'm sorry. Hagrid didn't mean it." "Hagrid." Dumbledore was puzzled for only a moment before he quickly understood what Wit meant, and his gaze fell on the yak beneath Wit's mount. "My friend, the yak Hage." Wit flipped off Hagrid and turned off the tap Hagrid had just turned on. He warmly invited Dumbledore into the house. "Darjeeling tea, my grandfather's treasure. If I dared to touch it normally, I would definitely get a spanking. When my grandfather comes back later, you have to cover for me." Wit diligently brewed tea for Dumbledore and casually asked, "Would you like some sugar?" "Thank you, I can do it myself." Dumbledore took the teacup and, as was his habit, added a lethal amount of sugar. Wit's eyelids twitched as he watched. It's a good thing Grandpa York wasn't there. Otherwise, Dumbledore would have been kicked out if he had dared to put candy in front of him like that. After doing all this, Wit sat down awkwardly and asked in a low voice, "Is that gentleman all right?" "Hagrid really didn't mean it. I think I can compensate him for his medical expenses." "Professor Snape is fine," Dumbledore said politely. "It was just a minor injury, and thanks to Madame Pomfrey's treatment, he has fully recovered." "Is it magic?" Wit asked, pretending to be a child hearing about magic for the first time. "After I enroll in school, will I be able to learn this kind of magic? Can it cure Grandpa York's chronic leg pain? He often has to take a lot of medicine when it rains." "It is illegal to abuse magic in front of muggles," Dumbledore warned first, then replied with a smile. However, if it is used to heal the illness of a loved one, I do not think it is considered abuse. That's great. Wit smiled genuinely at this moment. Chapter 3. The Little Snake-Eyed Wizard. After a half-hour conversation, Dumbledore had a very good first impression of Wit. He felt that the attack on Snape was just a pure accident. After establishing a closer relationship, Dumbledore began to inquire about something that had been on his mind ever since he first met Werther. Your eyes. Is this what you mean? Wit removed his contact lenses, revealing a pair of emerald green snake eyes. This is the price of fighting the Serpent Demon. In the game designed by Wit, up to 3 characters can be on the field at the same time. However, he has only unlocked one position so far. After the time travel, this function changed. All drawn cards will be summoned directly into reality, and the characters on the field will have another function. When Wit plays a card, he gains all of the opponent's abilities and talents. Although these innate abilities disappear after the card is changed, the growth gained through training and the magic learned during the equipment period will not disappear with the change of card character. For example, Wit's Hagrid card, which he had been equipped with for 10 years, greatly improved his strength, stamina, and other abilities. Its growth potential is stronger than that of most adults. Page 3. This power did not disappear after the card was changed. It only reduced the card's original attributes and talents. That's why, after drawing the Serpent Demon, Wit didn't hesitate to remove Hagrid and replace him with the Serpent Demon in his lineup. Even if Hagrid's attributes are stronger, he doesn't care. The growth potential and ceiling of the Serpent Demon are significantly higher than those of Hagrid. Equip the Serpent Demon as usual and switch back to Hagrid in a crisis. There's plenty of time. However, he certainly wouldn't say these things to Dumbledore. Without batting an eye, Wit lied. Ever since I inexplicably turned a cow into a spotted snake, my eyes have become like this. Mr. Dumbledore, can magic cure my illness? Wit stared wide-eyed at Dumbledore with a hopeful look on his face. When faced with a question you can't answer, the best approach is to throw the question back at you. Meeting Wit's expectant gaze, Dumbledore felt a strange sense of guilt. He had no choice but to explain to Wit. Mr. Wit, this is not an illness, but a peculiar magical ability. Magical abilities? Wit asked curiously. Are there many people like me at Hogwarts? I shouldn't need to wear colored contact lenses when I go to Hogwarts, right? These things are really uncomfortable to wear. Every child wants to be different, but doesn't want to be too different. They have to fit into either the big circle or the small circle. Few people truly enjoy feeling completely alone. Wit's performance was flawless. Dumbledore paused for a moment, then gently guided the conversation. The other students are special, and their situation is different from yours. Hogwarts is willing to accept the differences of every student. Really? Wit's face relaxed, and a happy smile appeared on his face. Colored contact lenses are definitely uncomfortable to wear, and he doesn't want to be wearing them when he goes to Hogwarts. Aside from these eyes, have you changed in any other way? Dumbledore asked thoughtfully. Yes, Wit said honestly. Besides these eyes, I can also understand the language of snakes. This little green snake is a friend I recently made. He's much smarter than the other snakes on the farm, and he has some special abilities. Would you like to see him? Magical creatures always have peculiarities. That's normal. Dumbledore could see the magic in the snake. It was clearly a magical creature as well. It's not surprising that magical creatures can use magic. Dumbledore didn't pay much attention to Parsline, which Wit mentioned. Parsline didn't represent evil. It was just a peculiar magical ability. Just like the magical abilities that some wizards are born with. This only shows that Wit is a talented person who is worth observing, not that we need to be wary of him. Mr. Wit, it's almost time. We should head to Diagon Alley to buy some school supplies. Of course, the best option is for your grandfather, Mr. York, to go with you. Family is always more considerate than an outsider like me. It's already this late. Wit glanced outside and asked in a low voice, "Would you like to stay for a meal? My grandfather will be back soon. You know, although I do have some special abilities, it's really hard to believe that I can use magic. Not to mention magic schools. Sometimes the words of family members are really not as reliable as those of outsiders." At this point, Wit was somewhat helpless. Even though he had demonstrated his ability to make playing cards float in midair to York, the other party was still skeptical. They remain wary of magic or magic schools. He even used his status as an elder to forcibly suppress Victor. Wit's rigid and stubborn personality left him feeling truly helpless. Dumbledore glanced at the clock on the wall and smiled. "I'm looking forward to dinner tonight." "You're willing to stay?" Wit stood up happily. "Then I'll have to cook a lot more dishes." As he spoke, Victor opened the refrigerator, skillfully selected ingredients, and casually took out a jar of sugar from the drawer. Wit is now quite skilled at cooking. It wasn't that Mr. York was deliberately being harsh on him. It's just that the overall level of culinary skills in England is indeed not very good. York was a native Englishman, so he was naturally used to it. But Wit couldn't get used to it. Fish and chips are delicious, but you can't eat them every day. Even if Victor wanted to find a Chinese restaurant to order takeout, he couldn't. At this time of day, in this remote little place, there wasn't a single Chinese restaurant to be found. There was no other way but to learn it on my own. Wit wasn't born with a love for cooking. He was forced into it by circumstances. Carrying a large bag of vegetables, and with a jar of sugar floating behind him, Victor walked into the kitchen right in front of Dumbledore. Spellcasting without a staff. Dumbledore looked up and examined it carefully before dismissing the guess. "It's not really spellcasting. It's just a crude technique for using magic. Even the most basic levitation spell is far more sophisticated than this." Even so, for a child, Wit's control over magic was quite astonishing. In Dumbledore's memory, even Voldemort as a child did not have this level of control. Dumbledore was unaware that Wit was equipped with the card of Hagrid the Yak from birth, giving his body an extra magical power. As a baby, he had nothing to do all day, and out of boredom, he could only study how to manipulate magic to do all sorts of things. 11-year-old Voldemort was certainly no match for Wit in terms of magical training. Now that Wit possesses the same talent as his opponent, he is even more adept at manipulating magic. His demonstrated abilities were naturally far superior to Voldemort's. Chapter 4: The Dinner and the Return Gifts, The Tales of Beedle the Bard. Wit made no attempt to hide his magical talent. He was destined to attend Hogwarts. We can't keep our 7 years of study a secret forever. Since it's bound to be exposed anyway, it's better to just show it to Dumbledore openly and honestly. With his magical manipulation of water to clean all the vegetables, and his ability to light the fire and pour in oil, Victor worked faster than 3 people combined. A home kitchen can feel cramped when 3 people are crammed in, but Wit has no such worries at all when he's alone. In just half an hour, Wit had already prepared 5 dishes and a soup. There was also rice and warmed bread. Sweet and sour pork ribs, sweet and sour pork with pineapple, steamed pumpkin with honey, plus a bowl of stir-fried cabbage with vinegar. Finally, serve it with a creamy meatball soup. A blend of Chinese and Western styles, with elements from both the North and South coexisting. Just as the food was ready, Wit's grandfather, York, returned home. York was around 70 years old, with a resolute face sculpted by a knife and axe beneath his white beard. He wore jingling jeans and had a revolver tucked into his waistband. As soon as he entered, he saw Dumbledore sitting prominently in the room. "Victor, we have guests today." Wit, carrying the dishes, introduced Professor Dumbledore, headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, the same magic school mentioned in the letter delivered by the owl a few days ago. "Wait a minute." York turned his head, stared at the tea in front of Dumbledore, and asked angrily, "You stole my treasured tea again." "It's proper etiquette, Grandpa." Wit rolled his eyes and said, "Professor Dumbledore is an important and distinguished guest. Didn't you see the terrifying titles in the envelope? Those titles alone are enough to fill a whole table." In a low voice, "Besides, I'm going to study there soon, so it's necessary to curry favor with the principal beforehand." And turning back to louder, "If you don't drink this tea soon, it will go moldy and will only be used to make tea eggs. If you dare use my tea to make tea eggs, I'll beat your butt so badly it'll bleed." York muttered something as he sat down on the sofa, no longer dwelling on the matter of the black tea. He glanced down at the dishes and then asked in confusion, "They're all sweet. My doctor warned me last week to take care of my teeth and not eat too much sugar." Despite saying he had a toothache, York quickly filled his bowl with various dishes, as if afraid that Wit would snatch them away at any moment. "This dish wasn't made for you. You can't eat so much." Wit instinctively reached out with his chopsticks to take the food back from York's bowl, but York was clearly prepared and didn't give Wit a chance to make a move, waving his hand away to pry Wit's hand off. "Nonsense. How could the dishes that appear in my house not be made for me? Professor Dumbledore's teacup is empty. How can you be so rude? Quickly refill the professor's cup." "Wit, who's the one who doesn't know manners? You damn grandpa." Despite his complaints, Wit sat back down, poured Dumbledore a full cup of tea, and gave him a casual reminder. "Remember to rinse your mouth with warm water after eating, and brush your teeth more often at night. Professor Dumbledore, please don't take offense. Is this dish to your liking?" "Quite delicious." Dumbledore chuckled as he watched the grandfather and grandson banter, his smile growing even more amiable. Page 4. "Mr. Dumbledore," York turned his head abruptly and asked abruptly while Victor was pouring tea, "is magic dangerous? Hogwarts shouldn't have any regional or identity discrimination, right?" Wit was quite mature from a young age and couldn't get along with many of his peers, often being isolated at school. He thought I wouldn't know if he didn't mention the old man. York let out a deep breath and said in a low voice, "I read in the admission letter that Hogwarts is a boarding school and students only come back once every 6 months." The old man's silence and calmness met Dumbledore's gentle gaze. "Nowhere is absolutely perfect," Dumbledore said gently and politely. "I can assure you that there is no safer place in the wizarding world than Hogwarts." "If we don't go," York said in a low voice, as if afraid that Wit would hear. "Mr. Wit possesses exceptional magical talent," Dumbledore said solemnly, "far surpassing most wizards I have ever met. Praising Wit means hoping that York won't waste Wit's talent. Most parents hope their children will excel. Praising someone's child is more effective than giving advice." "Okay, you've convinced me." York lowered his head and ate his meal slowly. He knew all the strange things Victor was doing. The reason he was so stubborn was purely out of concern for magic and his reluctance to part with Victor. "You make it sound like I'm going to the battlefield to die," Wit said speechlessly, picking up a piece of meat and putting it in his mouth. "I'm just going to school. I think you're just worried that no one will cook for you in the future. Why don't you just go for Aunt May next door? She's so old and still so shy and hesitant, not decisive at all. Ate your food. York looked up angrily, his sadness instantly vanishing. Fine, I'll eat. Wit spoke in the harshest tone, but with the most cowardly words, and politely picked up some food and put it in Dumbledore's bowl. Please eat more, especially this pumpkin. It's the best quality pumpkin the farm grew this year, and it's very sweet. You absolutely must try it. Dumbledore scooped up a piece with a spoon and put it in his mouth. It was fragrant, soft, and glutinous, with a rich pumpkin flavor and distinct main and secondary tastes, which made him subconsciously take an extra bite. I think you would be a perfect fit for Hufflepuff. Dumbledore expressed high praise for Wit's culinary skills. So, will I be assigned to Hufflepuff? Wit quite likes Hufflepuff. It's close to the kitchen, so he'll never have to worry about not having food. You'll find out at the sorting ceremony. Dumbledore winked mischievously at Wit, then scooped up another piece of pumpkin, deciding that when he got back, he would tell the house elves how to make this dish. The dining table at Hogwarts definitely needs a change. All right. Wit really couldn't understand why there was anything to hide about something as simple as the sorting ceremony. They successfully kept it a secret for over 1,000 years. The wizard's perverse sense of humor is incredibly boring. After dinner, Dumbledore reached into his pocket, pulled out a book, handed it to Victor, and said with a smile, "Thank you for inviting me to this very pleasant dinner. I left in a hurry today and didn't bring much with me, so consider this copy of the Tales of Beedle the Bard as my return gift. It contains many interesting and meaningful stories that can help you learn more about the magical world." After seeing Dumbledore off, Wit turned around and asked in a low voice, "Old man, what did Dumbledore talk to you about that made you so happy?" "This is none of your business." York touched the tooth-strengthening potion on his chest and began to think about whether he should buy some candy to eat tomorrow. Magic is truly amazing, much more reliable than those dentists. If it's unrelated, then it's unrelated. Since his grandfather wouldn't tell him, Wit didn't press the matter further. "When are you going to accompany me to Diagon Alley? This must be something that concerns me, right?" "Tomorrow. I'll go with you tomorrow." Chapter 5: The Serpent Demon and the Sorcerer's Stone. Break the cauldron bar. York, who had been brought in by Wit, curiously looked around at the bar's decor. "There really is a bar here. I almost thought you were kidding me." With his car parked outside, York couldn't see the leaky cauldron at all. In his eyes, the bookstore was just past the record store, with walls in between. Unexpectedly, after being led a few steps by Vitra and squeezed through the wall between the two store entrances, there really was a bar inside. "This place has a really great vibe. I love it." The leaky cauldron's dimly lit and simple environment unexpectedly suited York's taste, and he pulled Wit to the bar, ready to try what the wizarding world's liquor tasted like. After much deliberation, York finally opted for the croquet spirit recommended by bar owner Tom. According to the bar owner, this drink will involuntarily remind people of happy and joyful times, causing them to giggle. It was named after this. It is a very popular type of alcohol in the wizarding world. "A chug of spirits," York added after ordering. "Do you have any drinks that are safe for minors? If this is your first time here, I recommend butterbeer. Don't look at me like that, sir. I can assure you that although butterbeer has alcohol in its name, it has no alcohol content. I wouldn't dare violate the laws of the Ministry of Magic. By the way, we don't accept Muggle coins, but we can allow you to buy on credit temporarily. You can pay later, after you exchange your coins at Gringotts." The Ministry of Magic. York was intrigued and struck up a conversation with the bar owner while he was mixing drinks. Victor could only look around at the people appearing in the bar with boredom. Most wizards are old-fashioned and conservative. Their aesthetic sense is basically stuck in the era before last. The most common outfit is the classic combination of a pointed round hat and a wizard's robe. Wealthier wizards would wear formal attire, the kind of clothes that are difficult to wear and even harder to wash. Some wizards, who were not good at taking care of themselves, wore dirty, dusty clothes that looked as old as the leaky cauldron. Soon Wit got his butterbeer and sat down at an empty table with Grandpa York. I took a small bite, and it was sweet, filling my mouth with the rich, buttery flavor that seemed to waft right out of my nose. After tasting it carefully, you can still taste the aroma of malt. Even Victor's upper lip was covered with a layer of white beard from the foam of butterbeer. Delicious. Hissed Tilda, that guy over there gives me a really familiar feeling. The serpent demon looked up at a guy wearing a headscarf, with a somewhat timid face and an occasional fawning smile. Wit glanced up at him briefly before turning away again, whispering a warning. "Shut up. You'd better stay away from him. He's not someone we can handle right now. The most dangerous time at Hogwarts, besides the 7th year, is this first year. For Wit, this year is the most dangerous year yet." The source of the danger was, of course, Quirrell, who wore a headscarf and looked weak and easy to bully. Wit lowered his head and pretended to drink his butterbeer, his face looking rather grim. He certainly didn't want Voldemort to notice him. York, on the other hand, was flushed and looked happy and excited after drinking the strong liquor. He urged Victor to finish his drink quickly and led him toward Diagon Alley. Quirrell didn't even glance in his direction until Victor left. At this stage, Voldemort's corruption of Quirrell is not deep enough, and Quirrell is still in control of this body. If Voldemort were to become more powerful later, he might be able to detect the abnormality of Serpent King, but Quirrell clearly does not have that ability now. Wit's worries were completely unnecessary. At the small courtyard, behind the broken cauldron bar, count 3 squares directly above the trash can, then 2 squares horizontally, and knock 3 times. Upon receiving the signal, the wall surged like a tide, revealing a winding, endless cobblestone street before them. "It's done." York, like a mischievous old man, puffed out his chest triumphantly. "Yes, yes, Grandpa, you're amazing." Wit praised the other man at the right time, which made York very happy. "Come on, Grandpa will take you to exchange money." Gringotts. York looked up at the crooked pillar, then peered inside and saw the strange-looking goblins with sharp teeth and claws. "This is a wizard's bank, but it looks more like a robber's den to me." "Are you sure this is the place?" York's hand unconsciously reached for the revolver at his waist. "Didn't someone go in ahead of us? Judging from their attire, they're dressed the same as us. They're all muggles, as wizards call them." Wit pointed to a couple with a child ahead and said, "Let's follow them and see what happens." Gringotts has 2 main entrances, an outer bronze door and an inner silver door. At the entrances of both gates stood fairies dressed in scarlet and gold gowns, who would bow to each guest who entered. Page 5. The gesture of bowing was exceptionally precise, just like the fairy's rigid personality. Meticulous. Passing through the silver gate, one enters the main hall. Inside the grand white marble hall, there were about 100 fairies sitting on high stools behind a long counter. Some were weighing coins, some were examining gems, and others were keeping accounts. York took a few steps forward, caught up with the couple, and began to chat skillfully. "We are all parents who send our children to Hogwarts, and we share similar stories and experiences, so it's natural that we're closer to each other." Wit was about to follow, but then the serpent demon suddenly slithered off his body. "It's very fast." Wit turned his head and saw the serpent demon sneaking towards a burly giant, its green eyes fixed on the giant's chest. Beside the giant stood an incredibly small figure. Hagrid and Harry Potter. Gringotts along with Harry Potter, and something Hagrid carefully hid in his chest. It's a magic stone. According to the game settings created by Wit's previous life, a complete magic stone can instantly level up any character to the maximum level. It's easy to imagine how tempting this was for a weak snake demon. Even Wit couldn't help but feel a little tempted. But will the serpent demon succeed? The answer is obvious, no. Despite his simple-minded personality, Hagrid is by no means weak. The reason why the serpent demon was able to deceive the yak Hagrid before was because the yak Hagrid thought it was a companion, but the Hagrid in front of him had no initial goodwill towards the serpent demon. The serpent demon has virtually no chance of succeeding in stealing the magic stone from its opponent. Come back, in a snake-like voice. Seeing that the snake demon was about to make a move, Wit disregarded everything else and directly used his snake-like voice to forcefully order the other party to stop. "Excuse me, sir." Victor jogged over, picked up the bright green snake from the ground, quickly stuffed it into his sleeve, and kept apologizing. "My friend has lost control a bit. Please forgive him." Wit saw clearly what the serpent demon had overlooked due to his greed. The moment the serpent demon was about to make its move, Hagrid stepped in front of Harry, indicating that the demon had already noticed his presence. Normally, the serpent demon wouldn't act so impulsively. Wit guessed that the sudden appearance of the Philosopher's Stone was too tempting for him. Just like the moment Dumbledore saw the Resurrection Stone. He lost his mind. After being stopped by Vitter, the serpent demon also came to its senses, swirling up from the sleeve to Vitter's shoulder and peeking out from the collar. "His tilde, Master I." "Shut up," Wit glared at the Parseltongue. Harry, on the other hand, was one of the few wizards who could understand Parseltongue. Chapter 6, Ollivander's Escape. Communicating in Parsley in front of Harry is no different from whispering on public channel. Wit doesn't want Harry to know that the serpent demon is after the Philosopher's Stone. He had gone to great lengths to win Dumbledore's favor and didn't want to ruin everything because of this incident. "Oh, it's nothing." Hagrid asked casually, "Are you a freshman this year too?" "Yes, Professor Dumbledore told me about the Wizarding World yesterday and gave me a copy of the Tales of Beedle the Bard. Although the logic of the sentences is somewhat flawed, that's not the point. The point is to let Hagrid know that he is someone Dumbledore approves of." Sure enough, the moment Wit took out the book, Hagrid's eyes instantly became friendly, and his favorability towards him increased significantly. "Dumbledore often reads this book. He must really like you. Hagrid always has so much to say about Dumbledore. Maybe he likes the honey pumpkin soup I make." "Who is this?" Wit turned to Harry and asked curiously. "Harry Potter," Hagrid introduced proudly. Harry instinctively straightened up and extended his hand. Since arriving in the Wizarding World, everyone he met had to shake his hand, and Harry had developed a conditioned reflex to it. "Who is that?" Wit looked puzzled. "Is he a celebrity in the Wizarding World?" "Sorry, I come from a Muggle family and don't know much about the Wizarding World." Seeing Victor's bewildered expression, Harry awkwardly withdrew his hand and began to reflect on his own actions. "Harry, you mustn't become as arrogant as Darley." Harry Potter defeated. Just as Hagrid was about to tell Wit about Harry's great achievements, York suddenly walked over. "Wit, I've been looking for you for ages. This gentleman is quite tall." York looked up at Hagrid, then quietly pulled Vitra closer and whispered, "You didn't offend him, did you? For such a burly guy, a revolver might not be powerful enough." Do you see me as the kind of troublemaker? Wit sighed helplessly. I've only just met this gentleman. How could I possibly offend him? That's good. York pulled Vitra behind him and politely said to Hagrid, We have some things to attend to. If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave. It's all right, Hagrid said with a kind smile. Harry also needs to go and buy some things. After exchanging polite greetings, the two parted ways. What a terrifying fellow, York said quietly, patting his chest. Did you see that giant's expression? It's truly frightening. That's a smile, Wit corrected. Grandpa, you can't always look at people with such prejudice. That gentleman is clearly very kind. No matter how kind he is, he can still smash my head in with one punch, York muttered. You don't understand. Yes, I don't understand. Grandpa York was good in every way, but Wit didn't quite like his patriarchal mentality. After saying goodbye to Hagrid, York led Wit to a young couple and introduced them. This is Mr. Finnegan, and this is Mrs. Finnegan. Mrs. Finnegan is a wizard and knows this place very well. She even helped us exchange our money for wizarding currency. This is their son, Simon Finnegan. They are also the new students at Hogwarts this year. Victor, it's a good opportunity for you two to get to know each other. York gave Wit a push as he spoke. Victor, naturally not intimidated, stepped forward and said confidently, Victor Boots, it's a pleasure to meet you. Simo Finnegan. Simo was also a very outgoing person, and the two hit it off in just a few words. My mother told me that the most important thing for a wizard is his wand. I wonder what my wand will look like. A magic wand. Go to Ollivander's for your wands, Mrs. Finnegan walked over with a smile and introduced with some pride. Ollivander's is the greatest wand maker in all of Britain. You're sure to find the wand you want there. As they were talking, the group arrived at the entrance of Ollivander's shop. Wit stepped forward and eagerly pushed open the door to Ollivander's. This year's freshman. Ollivander's voice was very soft, as if he was worried about scaring something away. Ollivander might have started speaking in a lower voice to better hear the sound of his wand, and over time it became a habit. Two guests have arrived at once. Ollivander stepped forward happily and asked gently, which one of you would like to go first? Me, Simo eagerly raised his hand. Which hand are you more dominant with, left or right? As the wand boxes piled higher and higher, and Seamus's expression shifted from excitement to exhaustion, Mr. Ollivander finally chose the wand that best suited him. A lacquered yellow wand with a spiral pattern on the handle. As soon as Seamus got his hands on it, the tip of the wand crackled and popped, the sparks almost burning off Ollivander's eyebrows. A wonderful combination. Ollivander was extremely excited to have found a suitable match for Simo, and couldn't wait to turn his attention to Wit. Before Wit could react, the measuring tape on the counter slid over to him on its own. Ollivander stopped them right after they finished measuring the arm's data. Is there something on your arm? Page 6. Feel sorry. Wit realized what was happening and quickly ordered the Serpent demon to come out from his sleeve. A mysterious person. A scream suddenly rang in Victor's ears. It's hard to imagine that Ollivander, who speaks so softly, could produce such a sharp cry. Apparition. Space spun and twisted, and Ollivander vanished from before Wit's eyes. Most people wouldn't react this strongly to the Serpent demon, but Ollivander has an excellent memory. Events from decades ago seem like they happened yesterday to him. The moment the Serpent demon revealed its eyes, Ollivander's brain immediately reacted. Without a second thought, he used apparition to escape, leaving behind an embarrassed Wit, who stood there wishing he could carve out a Diagon alley. Thank goodness he brought colored contact lenses with him today. Otherwise, Ollivander would have been scared away the moment he walked in. What happened? Seamus turned his head in confusion and asked, "Where did Mr. Ollivander go?" I think I just heard him let out a terrifying scream. Maybe he's afraid of snakes. Wit touched the serpent demon's cold body and whispered, "Even the oldest person will scream when faced with something they're afraid of." "Then what about your wand?" Seamus scratched his head, looking somewhat lost, unsure of what to do next. "Just grab any wand. I remember the admission notice said that new students get a discount, and all wands cost 7 galleons. Ollivander just ran away for no reason. What could Wit do? He was desperate too. I can't go to school without buying a wand, so I can only pick one at random. This isn't appropriate. Zemo felt something was off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. Wit spread his hands, saying helplessly, "What else can we do but wait here?" Okay, Simon was convinced. After placing the money on the table, Wit casually picked up a wand of similar length and walked out. Ollivander's shop was so small that the parents of the 2 children only stayed inside for a short while before leaving because it was too crowded. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any room to store the wand boxes that Ollivander brought out. They agreed to meet at Florin's ice cream shop. Chapter 7, Magic Stone Powder. In the sweltering summer, popsicles are the most comforting thing. As always, the popsicles in the magical world are unconventional. Every time he licks the smiley face on the Victor popsicle, the corner of his mouth twists downwards a little. Until finally, her face turned completely sour. Wit. He simply couldn't appreciate the wizard's peculiar aesthetic sense. After eating the ice cream, Victor took out his wand and began to test it. This is a magic wand made with the heartstrings of a dragon as its core. It is approximately 11 inches long. As for what kind of wood was used, Wit couldn't tell for the time being. Aside from a few sparks when it was first swung, which prompted a warning from Victor, the wand became obedient afterward. They began to obey Wit's commands. It may not be as good as a carefully selected wand, but it works. I'll make do for a while, until Wit pulls out a new wand from the achievement chest, then I'll replace this one. Next up are the school uniforms, and then the magic book. Following the list, Victor bought each item one by one, and soon his hands were full of all sorts of things. From a distance, it looks just like a goods rack. Simo watched from the sidelines, secretly chuckling. With the items hanging on his body, Wit didn't find them heavy, but there were too many, and it was very inconvenient to have them piled up on him. We need to find a way to get a box like Newt's, otherwise he won't have anywhere to keep all the animals he draws in the future. Hogwarts doesn't have a dedicated zoo for its students. After completing the final purchase of the crucibles, Wit and Grandpa York bid farewell to the Finnegan couple and their new friend Simo, and boarded the car for their return journey. Completed purchasing school supplies, 1-7. On the game interface, a purple achievement bar was lit up. A good game will definitely have some simple achievements in the early stages to help players obtain initial resources, such as purchasing school supplies. Purple treasure chests have a 1 in 10 chance of containing a quest card and a 50% chance of containing a complete magic item. Wit excitedly opened the treasure chest, rubbing his little hands together. As the treasure chest shook, a soft blue light unfolded. Wit, Japanese letter hash. Damn it, my unlucky damn hand. I should have waited until I got back, burned incense, and paid my respects before opening it. There's a 60% chance of not getting anything. This luck is hopeless. Victor, in despair, clicked the confirmation button. As the card was turned over, a small pile of powder emitting a mysterious light appeared before Wit's eyes. The first 3 words almost blinded him. Magic stone. Powder. Items used to upgrade characters in the game. It seems all right. Wit's mood improved considerably as he looked at the powdered Philosopher's Stone in front of him. The Philosopher's Stone, the highest achievement in the field of alchemy. Even as powder, it is quite valuable. It can definitely be sold for a high price. However, Wit had no intention of selling it. Upgrading the Serpent Demon was clearly more important than those galleons. Before upgrading, he had to warn the Serpent Demon one more time. Is the Philosopher's Stone something they can touch at this stage? Even if they could instantly reach the maximum level, how much combat power could they actually unleash? In games, you need to use skills to fight monsters, but in real life, do you not need to practice magic? Having the same magical properties as Dumbledore doesn't mean they can beat him. Even in a 2-on-1 fight, their chances of winning are not high. Wit didn't want to be sent to Azkaban before even starting school, and he certainly didn't want to be targeted by both Dumbledore and Voldemort at the same time. Either way, it's a matter of life and death. Do you know you were wrong? After dinner, Victor lay in his room, rambling on and on about the essentials of the magical world to the Serpent Demon. For example, Harry's Parseltongue, Dumbledore, and Quirrell and Voldemort. The Serpent Demon nodded repeatedly. Master, I know I was wrong. Wit stared intently at the Serpent Demon for a long time, and seeing that he didn't seem to be lying, he couldn't help but feel a little strange. This is the first time this guy has admitted his mistake since he summoned the Serpent Demon. You really know you were wrong. The Snake Demon nodded. Although he thought highly of himself, he wasn't stupid. Back in Gringotts, he was simply blinded by the sudden appearance of the Philosopher's Stone, which led him to recklessly attempt to steal it. After being stopped by Victor, the Serpent Demon regained his senses and became increasingly frightened and regretful. The magic stone can only accelerate his growth, but it can't give him an extra life. On the contrary, stealing the magic stone is more likely to lead to his demise. The Serpent Demon has a body. He is alive, unlike Voldemort, who is in a ghostly state. He can grow to his maximum potential simply by following the proper steps, so he doesn't need to be so impatient. It's good that you know you were wrong. Seeing that the Serpent Demon was sincere and eager to admit his mistake, Victor took out the magic stone powder he had just drawn that afternoon from his pocket. Eat up, this is your reward. Master, this is. The Serpent Demon's eyes widened in surprise. Eat up. As long as you behave, you'll have plenty of this in the future. The probability of obtaining the magic stone powder used for upgrading is quite high. Even from blue treasure chests, there is a 30% chance of obtaining it. Page 7. Once you enter Hogwarts, you'll have access to achievement chests. While they may not be abundant, you can still draw one every now and then. However, Wit certainly wouldn't give all of it to the Serpent Demon just because he wanted it. Even if he didn't lack magic stone powder, he couldn't do that. The Serpent Demon was already arrogant. If Wit spoiled him without any limits, the Serpent Demon would become even more arrogant. Therefore, the magic stone powder can only be used as a reward when the Serpent Demon obeys. I won't give it out casually. The Serpent Demon licked away quickly and soon swallowed all the magic stone powder. Close your eyes and begin to digest. Unlike in games, there was no instant leveling up. Victor understood. His earlier decision to stop the Serpent Demon was indeed correct. Even if Hagrid stole the Philosopher's Stone, he wouldn't give the Serpent Demon time to process it. Dumbledore will also come. There might be a scene where they disembowel someone to remove stones. The thought of that scene is cruel. The next day, after a night of digestion, The serpent demon had completely absorbed the magic power of the magic stone powder. Its body grew larger, and it also activated new abilities. You can petrify your opponent by consuming magic power through eye contact. It wasn't very powerful. When used on the Yak Hagrid, the opponent was completely unaffected. When used on ordinary animals, it can only petrify them for about an hour. At present, this can only be regarded as a surprise attack. But Wit was still very happy, because the final form of the serpent demon was a basilisk monster that could kill anyone it glared at. And it's the kind that's controllable. The future is expected. The reason for their win rate against Dumbledore comes from this. Without this skill, Wit and the serpent demon would have no chance of winning against Dumbledore. Think about it, Voldemort would eat a melon while killing someone, but he only needs to give his opponent a look and let them go down and experience it for themselves. The style is clearly much higher. After testing the serpent demon's new abilities, Wit finally let go of the poor rooster and took out his spellbook to begin practicing magic. He hadn't forgotten that this year Hogwarts would have a book king, a Hermione who liked to carry around a book wider than a person as a pastime. Moreover, he was the top student in the same grade as him. To get first place in the grade and claim the achievement chest, Wit needs to be even more ambitious than Hermione. 7 grades, 7 purple treasure chests. Surely we should give him a character card. Maybe we can get an otter, Hermione. Otters have such smooth fur. It must feel amazing to touch. For the sake of the fluffy fur, the top spot in the grade can only belong to him, Wit. Chapter 8, The Hogwarts Express. King's Cross Station, entrance. Simo, over here. Wit waved and greeted him warmly. Since they met in Diagon Alley, their two families have been communicating frequently by phone. They have a very good relationship now. Wit. Simon crawled over happily and gave Wit a hard pat on the shoulder. Vitta remained motionless, while Simo was jolted and in excruciating pain. Wit joked, still thinking about the previous match. You've picked the wrong opponent. No matter how you compete, you can't beat me. That's not necessarily true. Seamus measured the wand in his hand, looked up and said, I may not be able to beat him in strength, but I might not lose in magic. Magic. You're comparing your magical talent to that of a basilisk version of Voldemort. Then all I can say is that you have a long way to go before you suffer setbacks. However, it's not a good idea to dampen their enthusiasm at this stage. Wit could only evade the question, asking in a low voice, Where is Mrs. Finnegan? Didn't you say she would take you to platform 9 3/4? Why did she suddenly call me to pick you up? My mom had something come up. Zemo's expression was somewhat indignant. She's always like this. It's all right, I'm all grown up now. I can manage on my own, even without her. Why isn't your grandfather here? My grandfather was helping me inquire about shipping services, and he insisted that the Yak Hage go with me, saying it was to protect me. Wit said with a hint of helplessness, Hogwarts doesn't allow such large animals to be transporting. Grandpa is arguing with the staff. So you've already been to platform 9 3/4? Seamus discovered the blind spot. What's that place like? Is the Hogwarts Express a flying carriage pulled by dragons, or a luxurious house dragged by giants? Or a giant beast like the Yak Hagrid would be nice too. Seamus asked excitedly, filled with longing for everything in the magical world. If I told you, Victor whispered, it was just a rather nice steam train, would you be very disappointed? Steam. Train. Simo's excitedly waving hands suddenly fell limp, and he said listlessly, Hogwarts is a magic school, so why do we have to take a train to school? It's not magical at all. Maybe it's because the place we're standing right now is called a train station. Whit told a really lame joke. Let's go. My grandfather should probably give up soon. Whit led Seamus to platform 9 3/4. There was no need to rush in. The platform would be opened on the day of enrollment. The wall that Whit and the others saw was just an illusion cast by the wizard. It was always clear here before the Hogwarts Express started. You can walk in at your leisure. It really is a train. Simo felt like his dreams had been shattered. Whit glanced at him, thinking he was taking his good fortune for granted. Countless people in his past life had wanted to ride this train but never had the chance, and he was complaining about it. Wait. Turning around, Grandpa York was just walking over with his yak hag. Judging from his expression, his theory had clearly failed. The staff recruiting new students refused to deliver such a massive creature as Hagrid the Yak to Hogwarts. I already said, I'm just going to school, not to fight a war. There's no need to take Hagrid with me. Hagrid can stay and help you take care of the farm, so why won't you listen? Hagrid. Harry, who was looking around blankly, heard the name Hagrid and ran over immediately, but couldn't see Hagrid anywhere. It's you, Harry remembered Whit, the strange boy who kept a snake and whom he had met in Gringotts last time. Harry remembered it so vividly mainly because the snake's gaze felt strangely familiar to him. I just heard someone talking about Hagrid. Did you hear that? Harry asked timidly but politely. That's it. Whit beckoned and whispered, Hagrid, come here. The yak hag then came over and affectionately nuzzled Victor's face. He is one of my best friends, Yak Hage. Harry Omega. Hagrid her. Harry's expression was ambiguous, a mixture of disappointment and something else. Knowing the truth, he hastily bid farewell to Victor. I don't know where they went. Victor didn't care. Harry was the key figure this year. He was more concerned about how to get first place in the grade than Harry. Grandpa, the train is about to leave, so stop worrying about Hagrid. Bye. As he watched Whit board the train, York, holding the reins around the neck of the yak Hagrid, stood by the train and saw him off. Look at that muggle old man. He actually brought a cow here and said he was going to send it to Hogwarts for his grandson. I bet his grandson is still breastfeeding and needs to drink milk. Victor had only taken a few steps after boarding the train when he heard a shrill laugh coming from the carriage in front of him, directed at his grandfather, York. Reaching out to remove the colored contact lens from his eyes, Victor walked past with a cold gaze. Bang! The carriage door was suddenly pulled open, and everyone inside turned around at the same time. There are no seats outside, so I'll sit here. You guys don't mind, right? Draco wanted to say he had a problem with it, but for some reason he couldn't move his body at all, as if he had been petrified. It's good that you have no objections. Page 8. Whit naturally got into the carriage and released the serpent demon. They stared at Draco and his two henchmen, one on the left and one on the right. If the other party manages to move even slightly on this journey, I'll change my name. Whit removed his contact lenses beforehand so that the petrification curse could work to its fullest potential. The basilisk's instant death magic is greatly reduced in power after being reflected, not to mention Whit's weakened version of the petrification ability. Before arriving, Whit didn't know who was in the carriage, so he had to maximize his magical abilities. Looking into Whit's cold, serpentine eyes, Draco couldn't help but tremble. Although I don't know what method the other party used, the fact that he can't move is definitely due to this new guy. How could Hogwarts have such a dangerous student? He's not going to get killed, is he? Draco became more and more frightened as he thought about it. Unable to move, he couldn't even cry. Time passed slowly, and Draco felt his body stiffen and begin to go numb. He was so hungry, so thirsty, and so eager to eat. Around noon, the train vendor gently knocked on the carriage door and asked with a smile, "Honey, would you like to buy some food from the train?" "Thank you. My grandfather prepared food for me." Whit took out a small plate of braised beef, a bottle of fresh milk that had just been squeezed that morning, a piece of bread, and a small box of rice. There was also a boiled egg. Eggs are food for the serpent demon. With a casual flick of his finger, the eggshells fell off like snowflakes, revealing the white flesh inside. Chapter 9. Headway Variations. "And what about them?" the train conductor asked, still somewhat unwilling to give up. She recognized Draco. He was the Malfoy boy, and he always had plenty of pocket money. Normally, the other party would definitely buy a lot of snacks, allowing her to make a huge profit. She didn't want to miss out on such a big customer. They're playing a game of not moving, seeing who can hold out the longest. Whit put the peeled egg into the snake demon's mouth and lied through his teeth to fool the salesperson. Seeing that the other party was still somewhat unwilling, Whit decisively took out a galleon and handed it over. "Give me just a little bit. They'll definitely be starving after they decide who wins." If they continue arguing with the ticket seller, they might be discovered that he was using magic on Draco and the others. At that point, not only will Draco's sentence be reduced by half, but Whit may also face punishment. That won't do. We need to get rid of the ticket seller as soon as possible. As long as we're not caught red-handed, no matter what Draco says, Whit can deny it to the death. Since he wasn't using a wand, the flashback spell wouldn't work on him. The Hogwarts professors couldn't possibly use truth serum on him, could they? Incidentally, information obtained through legatomic attacks cannot be used as evidence, because a clumancy can transmit false information to the legatomic attacker. In other words, this product is not guaranteed to be authentic. How can something whose authenticity is questionable be used as evidence? It's clearly unacceptable. Galleons. The train conductor's eyes were gleaming. Those sitting with the eldest son of the Malfoy family were indeed wealthy. "I made a profit." The excited train vendor was completely oblivious to Draco's pleading look. His gaze was already firmly fixed on the galleon. After carefully selecting a batch of his favorite snacks and placing them on the table in front of Victor, the train vendor hummed a little tune and dreamed of Draco's next visit as he left the carriage. Draco's hopes also departed with him. "Come back, please come back." Draco cried out in his heart, but the faint magic within him was clearly insufficient to change reality. Inside the carriage, Whit ate braised beef and drank fresh milk, occasionally smacking his lips and deliberately showing the milk to Draco. "We've already taught him a lesson halfway through. We need to let him know why he offended us." As for whether Draco would target him afterwards, Whit didn't care. Although the Malfoy family is wealthy, they cannot act with the same impunity as Voldemort. At most, they can only cause some trouble for Whit. What trouble can Draco possibly cause? It's nothing more than whispering a few words about him behind his back, or secretly following him and looking for an opportunity to jump out and laugh at him. It doesn't hurt or itch at all. After finishing his meal, Whit casually gathered up all the snacks on the table, took out a book, and began to preview the first-year curriculum. Time passed slowly, and as dusk approached and the sun was about to set, the carriage door was opened once again. A witch with disheveled hair appeared at the door. "Have you seen a toad?" "Neville lost a toad." Hermione continued talking to herself, scanning the carriage without any restraint. "He seems very arrogant." However, Whit believed that Hermione's behavior was more due to loneliness. Because of his good grades and lack of friends, he is confident but doesn't know how to consider the feelings of others. Being alone all the time means you don't need to consider other people's feelings, and you won't know how to understand others. Over time, it became a habit. I think, Vita said slowly, pointing at the snake demon, no toad would linger in front of a snake. You're reviewing, and they are. Hermione first focused her attention on the book Potions and Elixirs in front of Wit, and then realized that it was a bit strange that Draco and the other two were not moving. It's a magical ritual that children in wizarding families often perform to effectively train their magical abilities, Wit said without batting an eye, lying without batting an eye. Training magic. Hermes walked in with great interest, making no attempt to hide it. He stood in front of the three people and began to observe them. Seeing Hermione, Draco felt a renewed sense of hope. Anyone who could rescue him from the clutches of this snake-eyed demon would be his best friend. His eyes seemed to be moving. That's them trying to get rid of you, Wit said calmly. It's difficult to stay still, and you're so close, you're likely to disturb them. Really? Hermione took 2 steps back and said in a low voice, I'm sorry. The toad isn't here. I'll have to go to the next place and ask. As he watched Hermione leave, Draco's emotions surged once more, and he actually broke through Wit's petrification spell. Save. He was interrupted by a petrification spell from Wit when he was only halfway through his sentence. The sky slowly darkened, mirroring Draco's mood at that moment. He was terrified that he would be frozen in place for the rest of his life, turning into a stone statue, just like those unfortunate souls in fairy tales who offended witches. Draco also thought of his father and mother, who would surely be crying terribly. Fairy tales. Draco's imagination ran wild. Perhaps a mother's tears of love can save his life. Time slipped away quickly as Draco pondered his thoughts. The train is about to arrive at the station. Sensing the train slowing down, Victor stood up, gathered his belongings, and smiled elegantly and politely, saying, It's a pleasure to meet you all. I've never met such quiet friends before. I hope we'll have the chance to ride in the same carriage again next time. Draco. Quiet. Next time. Draco's entire body was trembling. Is this something a human being should say? Wait until. I can move, Draco suddenly realized. No sooner had Vittorio left the carriage than Draco regained his freedom. Gore and Crabbe slumped in their chairs, looking exhausted and terrified. Outside the carriage, Hagrid's loud voice easily carried throughout the entire train. First-year students, follow me, watch your step. With such a prominent sign, first-year students can easily find their target. Wit followed Hagrid down a steep, narrow path, slipping and stumbling along the way. The path was pitch black on both sides. Walking straight to the end and turning a corner, a magnificent and mysterious building suddenly appeared before Victor's eyes. Hogwarts Castle. Under the moonlight, this ancient and mysterious building, perched atop a towering cliff, is reflected in the Black Lake. The familiar music seemed to echo in Wit's ears again. Headway Variations. Page 9. No more than 4 people per boat, Hagrid shouted, directing the young wizards to board in order. Because he had been reminiscing for too long, Wit fell behind and happened to run into Draco, who was also lagging behind. There are no seats anywhere else, so I'll sit here. You guys don't mind, right? Draco, some sign. Their Japanese letter. I have an opinion. I have a very strong opinion. Draco wanted to refuse Wit, but he didn't dare to say it. He just sat there stiffly, letting Wit get on the boat. Chapter 10. The Iron-Capped Prince. I never imagined we would be so destined to meet. Wit sat at the back of the boat, waving his wand. Without any human intervention, the oars began to move on their own. Wit assured everyone that this trip together was truly just an accident. I don't want to be associated with you. Seeing that there were many people around, and thinking that Vita wouldn't dare to lay a hand on him, Draco's courage suddenly grew. I completely forgot how scared I was before. His tone wasn't as harsh as his words. That sounds like a good suggestion, Wit said with a gentle smile. I don't really hope we have any connection either. I hope you'll remember that. If Draco is too afraid to cause him trouble, that would be a really good thing for Wit. However, noticing Draco's eager look, Wit felt that this was probably just wishful thinking. Hopefully, the other party can tone it down a bit. If someone is too obnoxious, he might hit them really hard. Will Draco back down? Obviously not. He was capable of doing something like, after the Triwizard tournament, taking Goyle and Crab to the Gryffindor carriages and launching a group taunt that indiscriminately mocked everyone. He publicly announced that the Dark Lord would return to cleanse all mudbloods and all those associated with muggles, and that Cedric was the first unlucky superhero to fall victim to this. Although Draco's fate was somewhat tragic due to being shamelessly ambushed and ganged up on by all the Gryffindor members, his courage and reckless spirit were admirable. May they live forever. If he weren't stuck on the ship and unable to escape, Draco would definitely have cursed Wit and given him a very humiliating nickname. Let's also compose another song. The search for someone at Hogwarts spread like wildfire. Let this snake-eyed freak know what happens when you offend the Malfoy family. As he was thinking about it, Draco suddenly burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? Wit turned his head. He had a feeling that Draco was thinking something very rude, and it was definitely related to him. I'm sorry. I was just laughing at you. Draco, who was about to apologize out of fear, suddenly realized that the ship had unknowingly reached the shore, so he jumped out of the small boat. The moment Draco set foot on the earth, his courage levels skyrocketed. They easily accomplished things they wouldn't have dared to do before. Phew, phew, foo, foo. Draco's amusing demeanor suddenly gave Wit a whim to tease him. I finally got a chance to escape, and instead of running away, you dare to challenge me. Wit stood up and used magic to make his deep wizard robes billow, exuding an aura like that of a great demon king. Very well, I accept your challenge. Draco, oh. Something seems off. Shouldn't he be chasing after me in a fit of rage, so I can complain to his professor that he's bullying me? Why did it turn out like this? That aura is incredibly strong. The lake water rippled black under the moonlight. A cloak moved without wind, and emerald green vertical pupils like a snake's eyes. This makes Werther seem like a true demon king. The mysterious man. Someone shouted something, and the young wizards who were disembarking suddenly panicked. Some fled in terror, some were unable to escape the turmoil, and others were confused and at a loss. No matter how much Hagrid shouted, it was to no avail. Wait, he seems to have messed up. Are all wizards in the magical world this sensitive? They can associate a few words with Voldemort. As the scene grew increasingly chaotic, and the situation spiraled completely out of his control, Wit was even preparing to use a petrification spell to freeze them all in place. Hagrid brought in reinforcements. McGonagall. No, Professor McGonagall. He simply stood there and coughed, and the noise in the room instantly fell silent. Welcome to Hogwarts. While she offered words of welcome, McGonagall's tone was incredibly serious. She suppressed the last sobs. If this were a game, Professor McGonagall's crowd control skills would definitely be maxed out. After a while, once the students had calmed down, McGonagall turned around and said, "Come with me. The opening banquet is about to begin, But before you arrive at the restaurant and take your seats, we first need to confirm which college you will be attending. Because of the long delay, McGonagall could only explain the matters concerning the zoning to the students as she walked. From the underground dock to the empty room next to the auditorium, McGonagall precisely timed her journey and successfully completed her task of explaining and guiding. The college selection ceremony will begin in a few minutes in front of the entire faculty and students. I suggest you tidy your appearance while you wait so that you can look more presentable. Please keep quiet. After McGonagall left, her crowd control abilities disappeared, and the students were instantly freed, immediately starting to whisper among themselves. They just said the Man of Darkness. Is it Voldemort? Harry asked Ron with a questioning tone. Did you see who it was? It looks like him. Ron pointed quietly at Wit and whispered, I noticed it when we boarded the ship. He has snake-like eyes. It's him. Harry glanced at Wit, shook his head slightly, and said, I've seen him at Gringotts before. He's not a bad person. Dumbledore even gave him a book. I don't think he's Voldemort. How could Voldemort possibly have received a book from Dumbledore? That's impossible. Ron was somewhat skeptical of Harry's words, but due to a habit he had developed since childhood, he did not refute Harry. Squeak! McGonagall pushed open the closed door, and the noise instantly disappeared. Everyone was very nervous. Now line up in a single file and follow me closely. McGonagall walked in front. Harry was first, followed by Ron. Wit wanted to stand in the middle, but some people seemed to be deliberately avoiding him. There was no other way. He could only stand until the very end. Wit had a premonition that after the start of the school year, he might have to spend a period of isolation as he made atone for his previous impulsive decision. However, this might not be a bad thing for Wit. He didn't have much in common with these young wizards. Being isolated is just fine. The Great Hall of Hogwarts. Despite having seen it in the movie, Wit still felt deeply shocked when he saw it in person. Floating candles, reflecting the magic of the sky, and a bright green Slytherin banner. Every single one of them is a scene I could only see in my dreams. Professor McGonagall walked to the podium, took out a four-cornered stool, placed it in front of the new student, and then put a worn-out, dirty wizard's hat on it. The hat sprouted eyes and a mouth, and began to sing self-composed songs in its awful voice. Luckily, I was standing far away. Wit began to feel fortunate that he was standing in the last row, where the noise was much quieter than in the first row. Professor McGonagall did not step forward until the Sorting Hat finished singing, and she took out a roll of parchment and began to read. When I call out someone's name, that person should come forward, sit on the stool, and put on their hat. Hannah Abbott. Hufflepuff. Aye. While waiting for the Sorting Hat to sort him into Gryffindor, Wit began to ponder whether he could discuss it with the Sorting Hat and have himself sorted into Gryffindor. Wit's reason for wanting to go to Gryffindor is simple. Part of the achievement in the game is winning the House Cup, and if he goes to Gryffindor, he can just sit back and win. Page 10. With a biased referee like Dumbledore around, he doesn't need to do anything to easily get the achievement and claim the reward. If he goes to another college, it will probably be very difficult for him to achieve the College Cup. Who would bother to work hard if they could win without effort? Harry Potter. With Harry sorted into Gryffindor, the number of people still waiting in line for the sorting process dwindled. Soon McGonagall called out Wit's full name. Vert Booze. Wit walked over and sat down in the chair. Just as he opened his mouth to say something, he heard the Sorting Hat shout, Slytherin. No. Wit was completely confused. His hat hadn't even settled properly before he was hit. How did he become a Slytherin? We should at least chat for a bit. What happened to the Sorting Hat's promise to respect individual choices? You didn't even ask, so what are you respecting? The Sorting Hat. If I were to sort such pure Slytherin blood into any other house, that would be a real mistake. Although Wit was not entirely satisfied, the sorting ceremony was already complete. He couldn't just stay put. They could only get off the bench and walk towards the table that represented Slytherin. Chapter 11. The Allure of Golden Achievements. On the platform, Dumbledore's eyes flickered slightly when he heard the Sorting Hat call out Slytherin. But he quickly raised his hand and clapped, just as he would with the other students. Dumbledore was not surprised that Wit was sorted into Slytherin. Those snake-like eyes are proof of Werther's bloodline. With such pure blood, it was only natural that they were assigned to Slytherin. Slytherin itself is not problematic. Like other houses, it has produced many great wizards. However, Voldemort's appearance and his extreme theories led Slytherin astray for a time. Many wizards who would have become great went to extremes under Voldemort's influence. Worse still, this effect persists to this day. This is what Dumbledore was worried about. He wasn't discriminating against Slytherins. He was simply discriminating against Voldemort. Perhaps. Dumbledore began to ponder whether, if Slytherin could produce another great wizard, it would be able to change the mark Voldemort had placed on Slytherin, expel his influence, and allow this ancient school to return to the path of glory. Wit was very good at love. Dumbledore had visited his home and witnessed firsthand their enviable relationship. He believed that unless something drastic happened, Wit would not go astray. At the same time, Wit's magical talent was the most outstanding that Dumbledore had ever seen. He is the best and most suitable candidate. Dumbledore had considered correcting Slytherin's distorted thinking before, but he couldn't find a suitable candidate. Voldemort was too powerful. After Voldemort appeared, Slytherin couldn't even find anyone comparable to him. Other houses couldn't fit into Slytherin's circle. Dumbledore himself was a Gryffindor, so the Slytherin students only listened to what he said on the surface and didn't take it to heart at all. With no other option, Dumbledore could only wait and let time gradually diminish Voldemort's influence. Now he has a better option. On stage, Dumbledore was lost in thought, while off stage, Wit carefully observed for a long time and found that all the seats were occupied. If he wanted to sit down, he would have to ask someone else to squeeze in. So he decisively walked towards Draco. It's because he made such a friend in Slytherin. Draco, not a friend. There are no seats anywhere else, so I'll sit here. You don't mind, do you? Wit asked politely with a gentle smile. Draco wanted to voice his objections, but looking into Wither's icy gaze, he couldn't bring himself to say it. The person who was assigned to Slytherin must at least be a half-blood. As a result, many of his revenge plans could not be carried out. Furthermore, Slytherins are relatively united. No upperclassmen would willingly allow upperclassmen to bully their own lowerclassmen. Students in the same grade would most likely be no match for Wit. It's better to turn enemies into friends. Draco, unusually, showed some intelligence when facing his fellow Slytherin. Draco silently shifted his body to make room for Wit, but his expression remained arrogant. It's as if it's saying, "This is a gift to you." This guy is surprisingly easy to understand. Wit smiled, sat down, and turned to politely say thank you. Draco felt immensely satisfied with just one sentence, and he said happily, "Since you've realized your mistake, join us, and I can help you avoid becoming an outcast in Slytherin." Goyle and Crabbe turned around at the same time, looking at Draco with puzzled expressions. "Are you still conscious? He just tormented us all day. You want to help this kind of monster?" Draco certainly noticed the looks in Goyle and Crabbe's eyes, but he had his own plans. If he could recruit Wit, he would have a powerful henchman at Hogwarts. A henchman even more powerful than Gore and Crabbe combined. It's true that a little sunshine makes them bloom. Even Hogwarts has its own version of sunny day. Vita ignored Draco's invitation, neither accepting nor refusing, and focused all his attention on the achievement quest that had just been activated on the game interface. Blue achievement. For every 20 points earned in the effort to achieve a higher score for Slytherin House, you will be rewarded with a blue treasure chest. Purple achievement. Help Slytherin win the House Cup, 07. Golden achievement. Lead Slytherin to 7 consecutive House Cup victories, 6-7. In addition to these Academy achievements, there are also daily blue quests such as gathering herbs, brewing potions, and defeating magical creatures. Vita ignored all these tasks, his eyes fixed on the golden achievement of 7 consecutive victories in the Academy Cup. 6-7. I remember now. Before he arrived, Slytherin had already achieved a 6-game winning streak in the House Cup. If they could win again this year, they would achieve a 7-game winning streak and activate the gold achievement. It was just one breath away. Vita couldn't help but be tempted. The gold achievement not only grants you a gold chest that guarantees a character, but it also affects the number of characters you can deploy in battle. Completing 3 gold achievements unlocks the 2nd battle slot, and completing 10 gold achievements unlocks the 3rd battle slot. Enrolling in Hogwarts comes with a free gold achievement. If Wit helps Slytherin achieve a 7-game winning streak in the House Cup, he will have 2 gold achievements, bringing him 1 step closer to activating his 2nd play slot. The difference between having 1 playing position and having 2 playing positions is like night and day. Putting aside everything else, let's just take the 2 character cards that Wit currently possesses as an example. If he could possess Hagrid's strength and magic immunity, combined with the Serpent's powerful magical talent, he could become a fearsome monster. Immense strength. A single punch can knock someone into a physical coma. Strong defense. Ordinary spells will be deflected directly, and even powerful spells will have their power reduced. The magic is powerful. An attack that can be launched casually requires the enemy to defend with all their might. Is this even human? This is not just a pure monster. Moreover, Wit can also draw out other characters, creating even more wonderful possibilities. Compared to a single-position player, a dual-position player offers infinitely more tactical flexibility. Therefore, Slytherins have a chance to achieve this gold achievement in their first year, while Gryffindors would need at least their 7th year to do so. By the time 7th grade ends, Voldemort might even be dead, and a gold achievement wouldn't mean as much to Wit as it does now. Slytherin was indeed a better fit for him than Gryffindor. Mr. Sorting Hat, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I apologize. Wit thought apologetically. However, to achieve this golden achievement, he had to overcome a major obstacle. Wit turned his gaze to the podium, where Dumbledore was smiling and looking at the students below. This biased referee is the biggest obstacle in his path to progress. Chapter 12. The Cunning Dumbledore. After the sorting ceremony, McGonagall rolled up the parchment, picked up the sorting hat, and left the podium, giving her place to Dumbledore. Welcome everyone to Hogwarts to begin the new school year. Before the banquet begins, I'd like to say a few words. Idiot. Crybaby. Trash. Twister. Page 11. Thank you, everyone. After finishing his speech, Dumbledore sat back down without hesitation. He had only said a few words, truly a model of a modern schoolmaster. Wit clapped enthusiastically. Thinking back to the headmasters in my previous school, they were utterly insignificant compared to Dumbledore. Immediately, the table was filled with food, grilled, fried, boiled, and deep-fried, you name it. From a British perspective, this was definitely a very lavish meal. At least Harry enjoyed it very much, and Ron was busy eating with both hands. Even Draco, at this moment, didn't care about being angry with Vittoria. He quickly stuffed all sorts of food into his mouth, choked while swallowing, and only survived after gulping down a mouthful of pumpkin juice. Having not eaten all day, Draco felt like he could eat a whole cow. If Draco still cared about his image, then Goyle and Crab had completely lost it. One of them was gnawing on a whole turkey, and the other was stuffing a whole roll of sausage into his mouth like starving ghosts. Not to mention the others, even Draco sat a little further away in disgust. They're really enjoying their meal. A transparent head popped out from the table. Even the ghosts of Hogwarts came out to join the fun. Wit overheard a nearly headless Nico complaining about the Slytherin Cup's 6 consecutive victories and pleading with Harry and his friends to do better this year. However, before he could finish speaking, he was glared at by the blood man Barrow. Even as a ghost, he remained proud to be a Slytherin. Coincidentally, Bloodman Barrow was sitting right next to Wit. Just a moment ago, Wit could feel a special aura emanating from Bloodman Barrow. Although it cannot cause harm, it seems to have a special deterrent effect on ghosts. Not only ghosts, but even Peeves is afraid of Bloody Barrow. It is clear that Bloodman Barrow possesses some special abilities, which gives him a powerful deterrent effect among the ghosts. Perhaps it's magic related to the soul. Wit believed that in the long history of the magical world, especially before the establishment of the Ministry of Magic, when there were no laws to regulate it, wizards could not possibly ignore the existence of such a mysterious thing as the soul. However, most of those spells are dark magic, like Horcruxes, which are not allowed to be passed on to outsiders. Wit wiped his mouth, looked away from the blood-soaked Barrow, and didn't ask any questions he shouldn't have. These were not things he could touch right now. Perhaps in the future, when he draws the eagle Rowena, he will naturally know the answer. After the main meal, the banquet moved on to dessert. The students ate snacks and started chatting about their family situations. Wit, how did you end up in Slytherin? Seamus turned around and asked Wit curiously. I remember you said you came from a pure Muggle family. I was adopted, Wit shrugged and said calmly. Who knows who my parents are? Maybe they're wizards. I'm sorry, Simo apologized instinctively. It's okay, I don't care about that. I believe you won't be corrupted by the people of Slytherin, Seamus said earnestly. They all say that entering Slytherin will corrupt you, but I don't think you will. Not necessarily, Wit joked. Maybe I'll release a snake to bite you in a while. You're not really planning to do that, are you? Seamus tensed up. The snake demon's eyes were particularly cold. If Wit gave the order, the snake would really bite him. Ah! Before Victor could speak, they heard Harry from Gryffindor let out a scream as he clutched his forehead. Percy and Ron both looked at him with concern, and Seamus also turned his head. Wit also turned his head, but instead of looking at Harry, he secretly glanced at Dumbledore and Quirrell out of the corner of his eye. Dumbledore remained calm, seemingly oblivious to the commotion below. But is that really the case? Dumbledore, sitting in the main seat at the VIP table, had a clear view of all the students' actions. Harry suddenly cried out and covered his forehead. With such obvious actions, did Dumbledore really not have any suspicions? The cunning Dumbledore, Wit muttered as he turned around. Dumbledore, he really was. So reassuring. The sense of security that an honest, good person provides is far less than that of a bad but good person. Especially characters like Dumbledore, who possess both the cunning and abilities of a demon king, give people an explosive sense of security. Before enrolling, Wit was a little worried. After all, the first-year students would be facing Voldemort himself, and even a remnant soul was enough to make people fearful. But now, Voldemort. He's just a lackey in Dumbledore's hands. In the original story, if it weren't for Fudge, the Minister of Magic, being such a terrible teammate who dragged things down, and the unexpected factor of the Resurrection Stone causing Dumbledore to lose his mind, Voldemort wouldn't have been able to cause any trouble at all. Wit even suspected that Voldemort's resurrection in the Goblet of Fire was also a scheme by Dumbledore. Thinking about it carefully, Dumbledore didn't notice anything wrong for the entire semester. But the moment the Goblet of Fire ended, Voldemort was resurrected, and Barty Jr., disguised as Moody, took Harry away. He immediately realized something was amiss. Is this normal? Think back to what happened during the Triwizard Tournament, especially after Harry's unexpected participation. Even though Dumbledore knew someone was rigging the game, Barty Jr. repeatedly intervened to help Harry. Dumbledore was completely unaware of the truth and had no suspicion whatsoever about the fake Moody. Is it possible? Wit felt that Dumbledore must know something, but he still did nothing. Dumbledore allowed Harry to participate in the competition, allowed Moody to help Harry win the championship, allowed Voldemort to resurrect using Harry's blood, and even in the second competition, when Harry was clearly behind, Dumbledore still gave Harry a high score on the grounds of his high moral character. Although the reason is perfect, but, if things really get out of Dumbledore's control, he could use that as an excuse to eliminate Harry. Either approach is reasonable, compliant, and justifiable. With all these things happening at once, it's really hard to believe this was an accident. Apart from the fact that Cedric's situation was most likely unexpected, everything else should have been under Dumbledore's control. To save Harry, or perhaps to deepen the connection between Harry and Voldemort, thereby obtaining the location of Voldemort's Horcruxes through Harry, since Dumbledore hadn't found a single Horcrux from his 2nd to 4th year. How can I find Horcruxes faster? Of course, the fastest way is to ask Voldemort directly. To deepen the connection between Harry and Voldemort, bringing their souls closer together, so that Harry could directly access the depths of Voldemort's soul, and asking Harry would be the same as asking Voldemort. Incidentally, there's also a chance of saving Harry perfect. In terms of intelligence and strategy, Voldemort and Dumbledore were far inferior. Unfortunately, Fudge was too stupid. The temptation of the Resurrection Stone was too great. One wasted Dumbledore an entire year, the other cost him his life. Without these unexpected events, Voldemort wouldn't even have had the chance to run rampant. Chapter 13, I Am Just a Snake. With Dumbledore around, he didn't need to worry about Voldemort at all. After thinking everything through, Victor slowly relaxed, enjoying his dessert while casually looking around. Dumbledore, McGonagall, Quirrell, Snape. All stared at him. Faced with Snape's angry glare, Victor could only return an awkward yet polite smile. At the same time, he puffed out his chest and showed off the Slytherin badge on his body. This indicates that they are now in cahoots. This made Snape's already gloomy face darken even more. He had already planned how to get revenge on Wit, how to deduct points from Wit's potions class in front of him, but now the Sorting Hat's call of Slytherin has completely disrupted his plans. It's impossible to deduct points. Even if he were to lose his mind, it's impossible to deduct points from Slytherin. Simply hurling insults isn't enough to vent your anger. House points represent collective honor. Even in Gryffindor, if someone loses a lot of points, other students will look at that person with strange or even discriminatory eyes. When Harry, his two friends, and McGonagall were caught by McGonagall during their nighttime outing, each of them lost 50 points. Harry instantly went from hero to traitor. Wherever he went, he was pointed at and talked about by Gryffindor students. Therefore, for Snape, Point deductions were the main course of punishment, while verbal humiliation was merely dessert. Now that the main course is gone, and there's only a little dessert, it's not enough to fill my stomach. Noticing Snape's increasingly hostile gaze, Whit shrank back and looked away. It seems that if he wants to win the college cup, he must find a way to resolve the conflict between him and Snape. Whether it's magic or potions, the Serpent Demon's talent is beyond question. As long as you perform normally, you will definitely get extra points. If the relationship between the two can be eased, given Snape's favoritism towards Slytherin, he will definitely get more points. Over time, this will accumulate to a considerable amount. At the same time, Whit can also get a few more blue treasure chests. Given the current situation, while Whit may want to ease tensions, Snape might not be willing to. Should we go directly to their door to apologize? A scene flashed through Victor's mind. He earnestly pleaded to see Snape, who, upon seeing him, simply snorted coldly and slammed the door shut. Or perhaps she would open her fangs, fiercely spew venom to mock him, and then slam the door shut, giving him a big, cold shoulder. Explanation. Forgiveness. Page 12. You can have anything in your dreams. No, Whit shook his head violently. Apologizing directly would not only make him more likely to feel wronged, but also wouldn't have a high success rate. We need to find another way. Use Lily. No, Victor immediately rejected the idea. Using some information from Lily could be very effective if done well, but if done poorly, it would be disastrous. There is no possibility of any de-escalation between the two sides. The risk is too high. We can't gamble on it. Aside from Lily, this is the person he currently knows who has the best relationship with Snape. Whit turned his head and looked intently at Draco. Seeing that Whit had turned his head and was staring intently at him, Draco hesitated for a long time before handing over his favorite caramel pudding. If you've thought it through, I can give you this pudding. I'm so amazing to be able to make such a great sacrifice, Draco thought to himself, feeling quite pleased with himself. Whit, he'd bet Draco was thinking the wrong thing again. It doesn't matter, the process isn't important, as long as the goal is achieved. Really? Whit took the pudding Draco handed him, picked up the spoon, and swallowed the pudding in one gulp while Draco looked at him with a pained expression. After savoring the taste with his eyes closed, he reached out his hand to Draco. There might have been some misunderstanding about what happened before. Let me introduce myself. My name is Whit Booze. Malfoy, Draco Malfoy. Draco extended his hand with feigned generosity and shook hands with Whit, saying proudly, "You made the right choice. As expected of me, I've already recruited a powerful follower on the first day of school. I'll go see Harry tomorrow. How can Harry Potter associate with those poor Weasleys? With me in charge, Harry Potter would surely bow down and become my most loyal friend." Draco was secretly pleased with himself, completely forgetting the pain of pudding being eaten by Vittoria. At the end of the dinner, desserts, along with their plates, disappeared from the table. Dumbledore stood up again, emphasized the matter in the fourth-floor corridor again, and said happily, "Now let's sing the school song together." Aside from candy, Dumbledore's favorite thing was music. But the other professors at the school weren't so fond of it. The Hogwarts school song. They'd been singing it for decades, and they were getting tired of it. This song is really awful. The whole school sang in unison, and the singing sounded no different from what you'd hear in a market. Whit didn't even bother to open his mouth. I'll try to get Hedwig's variations out of my memory someday. That's the only Hogwarts school song Whit recognizes. Maybe I can even get some extra points. After the class was dismissed, Whit followed the fifth-year prefect to his Slytherin dormitory. His roommates were three strangers, two of whom, judging by their appearance, didn't seem very bright. Faced with the choice between purebloods and close relatives, Wit was at a loss for words. Slytherin himself acknowledged half-bloods and was willing to recruit half-blood wizards, but his successors have done things even more extreme than Slytherin. Outrageous. Never mind, it's none of his business. After a long day, the other three roommates collapsed into bed and fell asleep. After tidying up his things, Victor also closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. After Victor fell asleep, the serpent demon slowly slithered out from his sleeve. Magic stone, 4th floor music. After pondering for a while, the serpent demon suppressed his urge to investigate. According to his master, the philosopher's stone should not have been placed there by Dumbledore at this stage. Before the mirror of Erist was placed there, the philosopher's stone was in Dumbledore's possession. There's no point in looking back now. As for stealing the philosopher's stone from Dumbledore, what's the difference between that and suicide? The serpent demon isn't that stupid. Therefore, the only way to obtain the philosopher's stone is to find a way to break the spell that Dumbledore has cast on the mirror of Erist. Seize an opportunity. This must not be told to the master. If he finds out, the whole thing will take a turn for the worse in Dumbledore's eyes. He was just a snake, and the snake demon flicked its tongue. That was its greatest advantage. Fantastic creatures don't understand human morality and constraints, just as a Niffler wouldn't consider taking gold nuggets from a bank as robbery. It's simply instinct. After sorting out all the relationships, the serpent demon slowly swam down to the ground. He planned to go to the Hogwarts library to look for records about the Mirror of Erist and possible ways to break it. A method that suits his identity, one that, even if discovered, wouldn't make Dumbledore suspect Wirt's solution. The allure of the Philosopher's Stone was too great, especially after learning that Dumbledore would eventually destroy it. The serpent demon simply couldn't remain calm. Don't give it to me, why destroy it? Extremely wasteful, a terrible squandering of resources. Chapter 14. We can't let Harry follow the Weasleys' bad example. Good morning, Hogwarts. After a good night's sleep, Victor opened his eyes, used magic to get dressed, washed up, and headed straight for the Hogwarts library. Extraordinary wisdom is the greatest wealth of mankind. All the wealth accumulated by Hogwarts over 1,000 years is hidden in this library. Such a mountain of gold is bound to make people drool. From the outside, the Hogwarts library looks like just a small room, but once you push the door open, you'll find that it's much, much larger inside than it appears from the outside. The stacks of books stretched to the sky, and some passageways were so narrow that only one person could pass at a time. Messes. Pince, the caretaker, hadn't arrived at work yet, so the door was locked, and I could only wait on a chair in the hallway outside. Wit had gotten up very early, but there were always people who got up even earlier than him. Hermione Granger, the King of Gryffindor. After glancing at Hermione, Victor didn't go up to greet her. Instead, he found an empty seat and sat down to study potions and magic. You're here to borrow books too. Perhaps because she was getting a little bored while waiting, Hermione took the initiative to greet them. Do children from wizarding families need to borrow books? You could tell from that question that the child had no friends. While reading, Wit replied, Hogwarts has been established for over 1,000 years, more than twice as long as the Ministry of Magic. No wizarding family can match the collection of books in the Hogwarts library. Besides, I am not from a wizarding family. Hermione had been nodding along, but when Victor finished speaking, she suddenly stopped. Not a child from a wizarding family. You're not from a wizarding family, yet you speak so eloquently. You're playing me. Hermione glared at Wit, her eyes wide. I remember now. You were the one in the car. So what you said yesterday was also a lie. She wondered how the magical world could have such strange magic training techniques. This guy made her agonize over it for half the night yesterday. Hermione, who still couldn't figure it out, came to the library early this morning to find out the truth. Quiet should be maintained outside the library. Wit pointed to the sign outside and said without looking up, "Knowledge comes from books, not from family." Then what about the exercise techniques you mentioned yesterday? Just because I am not doesn't mean Draco isn't either. Draco is one of the 28